Well, welcome back, YouTubers and HO stock car enthusiasts. So here we are on the Super 2 repair part 8. We're getting pretty close. We've got the plate now shaped up, looking pretty good in terms of getting it roughed in after our build up of that missing tab. Now we want to actually hone in on making the tab itself, or basically trimming this down to have the tab match up to the other two that are on the plate. So what's going on here is I started with a piece of tape and then I trimmed it based on an existing tab that was already on there, and trimmed it enough to get around to the sides where the notches were, where the metal 3 prongs hold the plate on to the armature. And so going that far, those pieces are all original all the way around the armature com plate. And so in doing so, and then trimming it accordingly, then I just remove it, turn it, and then reattach it where those small notches where the prongs are line up, except for this time, they're showing me where we built up where I need to trim. And it's gonna get me pretty close. So I'll use that to basically set the width and then set the outer perimeter to establish my basic boundaries, and then I'll go from there. And then as we get further and further into it, we should be able to identify where the original plate was, because really all that was missing was the tab itself, and we trimmed it down enough to be able to build it up. But we'll see some identifiers here, and I'll kind of walk you through and explain it as we get a little closer what I'm going to be looking for as I trim this down. So going back and forth, and this took quite a while, so I'll be perfectly honest, I shortened up the video a little bit because there's a whole lot of this just slow, tedious detail of going back and forth and trimming, and so you don't want to go too much, right? It's easier to just take a little bit away at a time versus having to go back and add additional material onto it. So we've gotten it pretty close. Go ahead and take that template, that mask off, and you can see it's starting to show up. And so what I'm going to be looking for here as I'm trimming down is each side, so the furthest parts away from the tab that we're trying to reshape, those sections where the built-up material meets the original plate, those areas are all original. So as we just slowly work our way down to it, we'll get those to a point where we then begin to see them again on those outer edges, right where I'm trimming now. You'll see the original com plate begin to show itself as we trim this down, and it'll help be a guide as we basically use the X-Acto as a straight edge to identify going straight across, but then leaving the tab itself where we've now trimmed it on that very outer portion, the outer perimeter. So that's kind of what I'm looking for as I'm continuing to trim this down. And I'm pretty happy with it so far. Things seem to be going well. I was a little bit nervous initially that we'd have enough material here to be able to do this, but after having put that mask on and as a template, it seemed to be a plenty material there to shave it down. So we just want to, like I said, take our time. You can see here I'm using a straight edge. I'm basically going straight across. What do I need to trim? How does it stack up? And do we need to go some more? So again, we're out on this outer perimeter. I'll continue to just trim it down because that part was still there, still original. That part wasn't affected. And that's going to help be a guide for me as to how far I need to trim back in towards the center of that plate on those outer sections, not the tab itself. And I'll just do a little bit at a time. Just being ever so careful not to take too much. I don't want to cut into it, because the closer you get to the tab, then the more of the added material is there, and so you won't be able to use that as a guide. We can only use the very outer edges, right where I'm trimming right now, as a source to where that turn stops as it comes around, and where it should be. If the tab wasn't there, how it would be almost perfectly straight across. So that's what we're going to use as our guide. So now it's still too tall, and you could tell because the tab isn't quite well defined yet. And I'm going back and forth between each side and trying to balance it out, because it should look the same on both sides when it's all done. Trying to pull back some of that outer material. You can see on the one side there to your right, that side's looking pretty good, and I can see the original complete material as it makes the turn around the edge towards the tab. That one's pretty obvious there. Now it's just trying to do the other one. Now we'll flatten this out a little bit, true it up some on the flat surface. Yeah, that's looking really good there. You can see the thickness there is still the same. We're all good. Plenty built up. And we can still expose a little bit more of it. And this angle isn't the best in the world to see that, but I'm still trying to trim it flat. It almost appears that I'm cutting it on an angle, but I'm not. I'm still trying to trim it perfectly flat and stay kind of stay on that 90-degree angle versus the complete itself. And just a bit more trimming, which is going to further expose that tab, and you can see it really starting to take shape. It's really starting to match up now with the others and how much it extends out. So this area where I'm trimming here, if you were to draw a straight line over to the other side, that should be perfectly flat. And if it's sticking out and it's not, the complete isn't lined up perfectly flat with, say, the X-Acto blade, then you need a bit more trimming. And we know this part here needs to be flattened out a little bit more to get that tab established. There, you can see it's starting to shape up pretty good there now. You can see the original complete starting to expose itself on those outer sides. Once we know we get there, we know we're super close to where we need to stop. And in the entire course of this, you're having to be very delicate, because the other two tabs that aren't damaged could be damaged. The actual copper itself was known for peeling up. At least I've seen it a lot on the older style, or what I would call the first generation complete design, this yellowy looking one. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Clean this up a little bit here, get a little bit better look out, if we get some of the dust and stuff off of it, and then take another look. And I'm just using a basic contact cleaner. Needed a little bit more there, had a bit of a hump. You want that on the flat surface, you want that to be as close to perfect as possible. And once we go to put that contact on, you'll want that thing to lay down there. You don't want it to be a hump that prohibits getting a good flat contact, where we can resolder, reattach that piece to it, because we're going to have to sand that down some just to ensure that it doesn't rub the chassis once you get it all back into the car. I'm pretty happy with that. Turned out pretty good. So stay tuned, like and subscribe, and watch the next video.